Alright, let's play some Outlast 2 and... oh, son of a... I'm MangaKamen, and one of the most anticipated horror game sequels that came out recently, as you couldn't tell from the already pretty bad intro skit, was Outlast 2. Any Let's Player worth their salt immediately dropped onto the scene and already given the same praise that it's incredibly terrifying and scary, at least at first. And I'll be honest, I really have to say that the horror, atmosphere, and the graphics in the game certainly do back that up for the most part. However, I'll say this, there's one thing that completely takes me out of the horror element, and if the opening bad joke wasn't evidence enough of that, it'd be the lack of defending yourself. And before you go typing in the comments, I realized this was present in the original Outlast and Whistleblower DLC. And to me, it's kind of a flaw in horror, especially in these kinds of games. Helplessness at the get-go. So, instead of wasting precious calories to type out hate comments at me, why don't you give me about 5 minutes to give my reasoning on this? Lovely. One of the most iconic parts of recent horror games would have to be the helplessness aspect, or as some people like to refer to it as a mechanic. And it was popularized by the Amnesia games. You could not fight back. You only have the options of running, hiding, or dying. And to some extent, this is an issue for me. It takes a bit of the realism out of the game for me, since it contradicts a major portion of human nature, the flight or fight response. The games automatically take away the option of even fighting back, and it comes off as a bit unnatural to me. I'm not saying that you should be given a chainsaw with unlimited gas and go all Evil Dead on the enemies in the game. That would completely remove the idea of any horror appearing in the game at all. Fighting should not be the only choice to respond to a situation, but neither should running and hiding. The latter is more apparent since it can make the game very repetitive and aggravating, as seen in the later half of Outlast 2. Let's go with Jacksepticeye for an example, as he actually talks about this in his own Let's Play on the matter.
Because at the start I was really into it because it was setting up a lot of really cool atmosphere, and then it all just fell apart. It kind of fell upon the same tropes over and over again of running around and avoiding people and being chased all the time. Good lord, there's so much chasing in the game. There's a lot of running away from people in this game. And after a while, it stops being scary.
This is where the idea and the thing that video games can do that other forms of media can't. Choice. Giving the player a choice in horror situations can be the most terrifying thing in games. Decision-making in high-stress situations is a lot scarier than, say, oh, I don't know, and this is coming off the top of my head, some skinny twig of a man appearing out of nowhere because you picked up a piece of trash off a tree and he's like thinking, oh, oh, sorry, I completely lost my train of thought there with that bad horror. Decision-making can make a good horror game into a great horror game, even if you're given a gun. You have limited ammunition. Do you use it on the current threat? Or do you save it for a possible situation that's much worse? I mean, there are plenty of opportunities for makeshift weapons to be used in Outlast 2.
Take the pitchfork, though, you might need...
The fact that you can give a weapon to a character to defend themselves from grunt enemies, who, as far as I can tell in this game at the beginning, are regular humans, evil cultists, is a little odd, and it's not like having weapons would turn into an action game. You could easily show the character that, at best, the weapons could serve as a means of distraction, or to just keep the enemies away temporarily. The idea that a fully grown man who's married can't even throw a punch, or kick a human away, or enemies that grab onto him and instantly kill him is a little bit of a detraction to me. The basics of self-defense that anyone with no training can do is something that pulls me out of the of helplessness. After all, wouldn't you want the ability to at least have a second to push an enemy off to save yourself? That being said, against enemies like Chris Walker and the Wall Rider, yes, the helplessness aspect can work. They're bigger monsters of the game or have supernatural abilities, and as such would make them a lot tougher to take down. Helplessness in a horror game can work, but it depends on a few things. The character you're playing, the setting, and the enemies themselves. Let me give an example of another recent horror game that came out that I think does helplessness pretty well. Little Nightmares. You play as a 9-year-old girl called Six who's trapped in a big ship-like location, filled to the brim with grotesque parodies of humans, long limbs, bloated features, and making sounds that seem like the creatures are in pain for just being alive. In addition, they're all pretty much 7 times your size. These creatures with their immense size prompt you to run and hide for them, and using other means to get past them, breaking an item or turning on a television that can cause a distraction, and thus allow you to sneak past these monsters for most of the game. I have to ask why a similar mechanic isn't added in other games. For example, going back to Outlast 2, they included a bit of a sound system into the game, using your camcorder's mic to hear enemies that are nearby. Why not take that a step further by picking up stuff like stones or something like that to throw and distract them so you can get past them. Currently, the game turns into a fast-paced chase simulator where you're forced to trial and error with this stuff, especially in the later half of the game. And the fact that it's really dark out and you need the camcorder makes it so hard to determine where you need to go. But back to comparing Little Nightmares to Outlast 2, the reason why the helplessness aspect works in Little Nightmares and not Outlast 2 should be that you're completely outclassed. Even if you were armed in Little Nightmares, the fact that these creatures are mountains compared to you, but can also outnumber you, can be added to make you feel helpless. And when I mean outnumber, I mean completely outnumber. Heck, going back to the days of yesteryear, and going way back, there was a game called Clock Tower that basically had like a similar premise. I'm being strangled by the man in the mirror. Ah! You were a young girl who was practically helpless. You couldn't fight back the monsters, but you were able to push them back and at least try your best. Yes, you could run and hide, but if the monsters caught up to you, you did have the ability to at least push them off. How is it a SNES game can do that, but a game like Outlast 2 can't let you do that? And it's not like the same can't be done in Outlast 2, but there's no reason that you can't be able to take a guy in one-on-one when they're alone and they've got you in your grip. You should at least be able to have a means to push yourself away from them. You have legs, you have arms, why not use them? Then again, who am I to say? I'm just a robot who likes to give his opinion on the internet, so how about you guys do the same? Let me know in the comments below if you think you should have both the fight or flight response, or just the flight response in horror games. I'm TrashCommon, and remember to examine your fandom.
Oh, you touch my tra-la-la. My ding-ding-dong.
Sure we got the clue, how bad this we go, don't you know, no more art. And as I look to the horizon, not a cloud, but then stormy weather's go too cold. Seems like it crept up out of nowhere, all around you is not what you foretold. You never see it coming.